Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Reclaim Our Roads Community Tactics meeting. The purpose of this meeting was to just give an overview of exactly what it is we're fighting against and what we're fighting to protect, because there are certain groups that are coming after our way of life, and they do this in many different ways. But one part of their agenda is I guess it's like an anti-car, anti-freedom of travel, but also it's moving into our cities, into our towns. They're trying to zone all of our cities and towns and have this ridiculous system, which could very well lead to an incredible amount of enslavement if we were to allow it to go ahead. And these measures are being rolled out under the guise of saving people and saving the planet. It's the climate con, but this is one facet of it. Virtue is being weaponized, and what's to a high possibility that may happen is that these measures end up just taking away more of our freedom and hindering our ability just to live a free and harmonious life. So that's what we're fighting against. And to do that, there are many to fight back. There are many different ways we can do it, but we can also be smart with how we spend our energies, what we do, how we create. And we've already got quite a network established, and that's really awesome to see. So far, the community has mounted a huge resistance against these zoning measures, which is really cool to see. So out of 92 counties in the UK, 13 have signed up to what's called the UK 100 initiative, and that includes Bridgend, Cambridgeshire, Derbyshire, Essex, Leicestershire, Norfolk, Oxfordshire, Somerset, Suffolk, Surrey, and Warwickshire. Some of those counties are really big, and that totals to about 10.5 million people. But it's not just that, because there's also many other individual cities that have signed up to the scheme. And so there's actually a lot more people that are in affected areas that may very well, it seems like in the future they're going to be going along with. Some already have. Many of these places that you're seeing here have already begun the zoning of their towns, and the agenda has already taken hold there. But there's also been a lot of resistance in a lot of these areas, not everywhere. And I'm quite confident that there's going to be mass non-compliance with this, and if there's enough people like there was against the COVID measures, then I do think we could actually successfully stop their plans. Because although there have been many counties that signed up, many haven't, at least on the on the regional or on the county level. The councils haven't signed up yet. So that is promising, and I'm curious as to why only certain counties would have been chosen, why not all of them. And it's interesting, like why these counties. But it's also, we got to be aware of the fact that this is going to be a long-term fight. It's not just going to be over overnight. And just because some of these counties and cities have signed up for the scheme, that they're actually starting it. Because I've been in some of these towns, and you wouldn't know it's any different yet, but they've signed up to something that says that they're on board with it to some degree. And yeah, it's also not as clear as it seems, because although on the county level Essex has signed up to this scheme, they have been fighting back against Sadiq's expansion of the ultra low emission zone in London. And there's a bit of a technicality there where they won't allow the signs to be installed on the land, so they can't put the cameras down the road from the signs or something like that. So that's interesting, because obviously the county council has signed up to the UK 100 scheme, which is very much it's just a net zero agenda, but 15-minute cities are a big part of what they're trying to roll out. So they signed up to that, but they're fighting back against the zoning measures. So it's interesting. It's not all as clear as day. And so same with Hertfordshire, and Buckinghamshire hasn't signed up to that list, and they're also blocking the ULEZ. So that's pretty cool. And there is a nice group of London boroughs who are also fighting back, and that includes Harrow, Hillingdon, Bromley, Bexley, Sutton, and Croydon. So there's a nice little list there, and that's just on the council level. That's just like, I mean, you think of government, and sometimes it's like come to the conclusion that every single person in any political station anywhere is completely and utterly brought and sold, and there's absolutely no hope anywhere. Maybe there's a little bit somewhere. Maybe there are still good people in these positions of power that have some influence. I still believe that's a possibility. I didn't used to. I used to think they're all corrupt, but maybe there's that. But the thing is here, we can't rely just on these, you know, these councils sticking up for us. We have to do everything that we can to fight back. Because yeah, who knows if how far they would take it, and yeah, we've got to be the ones to initiate the change. Sorry, I can't actually let people in and screen share. Apparently, that's kind of annoying, but there we are. So we'll just let people in as they come. So yeah, it's looking quite promising on that front, because I don't see how, if you don't have the compliance, I don't see how the ULEZ is going to roll out. And I don't know, you guys might have seen the recent news that it looks like Sadiq's getting taken to court or whatever over the ULEZ. That could all be a show, but it seems like a positive thing. But also, there's like a backup plan that they have already mentioned a couple times, and that is the pay per mile scheme. However, the fact that they've had to go to a backup plan, to me, is a positive sign. Like, you know, with these, as I was saying before, this is a long-term battle. We're going to be in this for a good few years at the minimum, maybe for a lot longer. And it's been going on for who knows how long already. So these people aren't about to just quit and give up, but we could make it harder. We can slow them down, and we can overturn certain things. Then we just have to be aware when they try and come back under a different name, because as I'm sure many of you have also seen, the zoning measures go by many different names: livable cities, low traffic neighborhoods, clean air zones, all these buzzwords. And I believe that's done deliberately. So if it was just 15-minute cities all over the country, it'd be easier to rally against that. So I believe that's why they've deliberately come up with all these different names. And so, yeah, there is a concerted effort to try and remove freedoms from the people of the UK. And the agenda has already been partially successful, but it's also had partial failure. So if you could just mute yourself for now, and then once this is over, we can have a chat. Let's see, or I'd have to mute you for you. Gary, could you mute yourself, please, mate?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get into it to do it. Sorry.
Okay, 1 second, I'll do it. All right. So, yeah, we can have a chat in a bit. I'll just do this presentation. Yeah, so there have been a partial failure, and that's inspiring. But if you were to look at it from one perspective, the fact that they've had any success at all is good for them in a sense, because if they didn't have this, you know, they didn't do anything, then we would have more freedom. But if they do something and it's partially successful, then they're still in one way winning. But how far it goes, or how much we allow them to win, so to speak, is up to us. And we really can make a difference in what goes on here. One of the greatest tricks our enemies have ever pulled was getting people to believe that they have all of the control and power, and we are essentially completely hopeless and helpless, and we just have to roll over and accept whatever the government's going to do, because we can't change that. Who are we? We're just one person. That is a brilliant psychological trick that gives them more power than they actually would have had people been aware of the fact that we have the power, the people have the power, we have the final say here. And as I'll get into towards the end, there's an actual behavioral change document that you can find on the greatclimatecon.com website that shows explicitly how they are very concerned with trying to change the behavior of the people, because they know that if we don't comply, this whole thing won't go ahead. So they're very aware of that. And so there's a bit of an overview of just why we're meeting tonight. Together we can make a change. We can twist the screw and cause pain for our enemies, and we can at least know that we are making a difference and we are fighting back. And I've seen it many times in my own life, what people can do when enough people get together and enough energy is channeled in the right direction. And even small little things, like, as I'll get to it in a moment as well, like little actions done in the right way effectively can be very powerful. And you can like do like a banner drop, for example, and not only can the banner that you create be getting a message out to all the people who drive through or underneath through the road. But then you can take a picture of it, like you put through the banner. Maybe if this is something that very few, you'd only need a few people to organize, you know, like if you could probably, if you really wanted to do it all on your own, but to do it efficiently, you just need like one person with a car, or maybe two people if they both have a car. But then you just have someone do the banner drop, and then someone else drive underneath it and just get a picture, because then what happens with that is you can use that same stunt again and again and again because you've got the picture. So as I'll show as well, we have a Instagram account that's doing quite well, and we have this at our disposal to get the word out. And there is other social media. It's just the Instagram itself is our most powerful one at the moment, definitely. And then Telegram for organization and just getting people together, but for sheer reach, the Instagram is really quite powerful. So I mentioned we have Telegram, and this is what we have currently in terms of local groups around the UK. And it's really great to see people take advantage of these local groups, because obviously I'm only one person, and we have a small team of admins that are you know, keeping things in check, but we are also always looking for admins. And if your area has zoning measures that are trying to be rolled out and you'd like to do something about it, and we don't yet have a local group for your county or even for your city, then get in touch, because we can sort that out. But we really do need, at the very minimum, one, better at least two active people who really care about what's going on and are switched on and want to, and have a little bit of time, you know, just to commit to this cause. And then we can look at setting up your own local group. And yeah, the London one's been doing really well, and there's been lots of great sharing in there, and also people post stuff in the Telegram group, for example, which I can then post on the Instagram. And not just only on the Instagram, depending on what it is, I can post it on the Great Climate Con website, which also gets a lot of traffic. And there's a nice email list too that's been built up, so we can really get the word out there on what's going on, you know. So if there's like a protest going on at Bromley or whatever, as there has been before, then we can plaster that all over the site, get all the coverage. And it's kind of like our own little media outlet within this as well. So we've got all these tools that we can use to get our message out there. We're not just, you know, speaking or posting to nothing. Thankfully, there's already been quite a bit of an audience that's been built up, so that's cool. We have that at our disposal. And so these are just the local ones we've got in London. There's definitely room to get a few more of those, but again, the same thing applies. We just need some active people to get involved and get the ball rolling. It really does only take one person to start leading the way, and incredible things can happen. So here's, I mentioned before, Sadiq is having trouble with the ultra low emission zone, and but I did also as well mention that there's like a backup in place, because yeah, there's no rush, or there's no quick fix. So this is going on for a while, so it makes sense that they would have a backup. But then if one scheme fails, then once that's completely done away with, and we're like, well, we had victory with the ULEZ, that flopped, then we'll just move on to the next scheme. You want to try and pay per miles, or we'll just have PPMP, PPM. We'll have the anti-PPM groups, and we'll just, you know, and then we'll already have had a bit of experience. We're a bit battle hardened. We know what we can do, and we can see that we're actually having an impact here, because Sadiq's having a real hard time rolling this out. So we can just keep going. We don't have to just let them sit by. Like, oh no, because they have the backup now, that's going to work. No, because as I mentioned before, we have the power, and the trouble is coming from us. That's what I believe. I believe a huge part of why this is failing is because there's thousands and thousands of people in London, tens of thousands even, that are actively resisting this. So that's really awesome. And there's a really good map that's also on the ClimateCon website that shows all of the ULEZ cameras. Now this is being actually updated. There's an entire Facebook group that's dedicated just to mapping out the ULEZ cameras in London. And there's a nice little system that when one is taken out, it gets turned into a black marker on the map. So you can see there's quite a few black markers on this map, and it's really cool to see. And see, as I mentioned, we have this Instagram account. This is at our disposal. So for example, if you were to do like a banner drop and you take a picture, this is where I could post it, and we can get the message out there to thousands of people. And in the future, this account, I only see it going one way. It's getting good engagement, good growth, which is really great. So we can use this to our full advantage, get the word out there. And as I was saying, this one is, that's been very popular on the social media. And you think how much the resources and the time it takes to do this is very minimal, but the effect is actually quite high. I'd say for the return of the effort put in, a very simple banner drop like this is actually, it's very efficient, right? This would only take a short amount of time to do, very cheap in terms of resources, but the effect is very high, especially if you get the picture, and boom, thousands upon thousands of people see it online, and maybe more. And so this is quite an inspiring story as well. Again, there's an article about this on the Great Climate Con website, which talks about how so they put these ridiculous planters in the street, in the road, and the locals protested instantly, and within one day they were removed. So that shows what we can do, right? You never see this, you never see on the Daily Mail, local protesters have victory against local government and stop them rolling out blah blah blah, because they're so scared of what would happen if if enough people actually saw that. But then, because then they start to remember how powerful they are, and they start to get more inspired, and yeah, it terrifies them to report on things like this. So they have to paint it up and dress it up, or just not cover it at all. But this happened, and it's really cool. And it's just one example. There's loads on the Great Climate Con website. But also another modality to get the word out to the people, and this has been quite cool so far. I've interviewed a few people for the show. One of them, and a couple of them have just been people that are, just grassroots on the ground, just your everyday citizen who's actually concerned or is being affected by the zoning measures, and their vehicle's not compliant or something like that or whatever. And it's good to hear from the community, just to hear your thoughts, what's going on, like how you feel about this, how it's actually affecting you, how your business is now impacted, and so that impacts your life and all of that. And then we can show that to people and be like, hey, this is why we're actually fighting. I know it just sounds like a charge, just pay the charge, it's okay. But if anybody has any idea how tyranny works, or how for example, how the COVID thing went to 2 weeks to flatten the curve to like 3 years of your life. It's like, well, it just starts out with one thing, it's just a lockdown for 2 weeks. It's just a mask for a little bit. Then 3 years fucking later, you're like, what just happened? So that's similar with the zoning measures, and it's lit piece by piece. But once you're aware of it, and you know how the agenda usually rolls out, then it doesn't phase you as much. And then and you start to figure out, well, what can I do about it? So if you are somebody who likes to speak, if you enjoy the camera, if you feel that you're going to be courageous and have your first ever time doing this, you will be, again, being of service in this fight, because it's going to take enough of us to just be proactive enough. And not everybody has to be like me, and it's like all day, every day. But even if you just committed like half an hour a day, or even just a couple hours a week, whatever, if that's all you can manage, if life is that busy. I know people have got kids and full-time jobs, and life can be hectic, but I think everyone can commit some amount of time to this without overly stressing themselves. And if enough of us do, then we'll see the benefits of maintaining our way of life for as long as we can, hopefully indefinitely. But if too many of us are just like, I don't know, too accepting or too passive, or just someone else will sort it out and don't want to do the work and all of this, then we're going to be in a situation here where we're like, oh shit, I don't have any of my freedom anymore. I mean, back in the day, I know a lot of people, people were like scammed into the belief of fighting for their country and dying and all of that, but there was something to that at one point. But now the fight for freedom, it doesn't necessarily, or doesn't put your life in danger immediately. You're not going to be shot in the head. You just might be slightly more stressed out if you take on a little bit more work. But if you can deal with that, and it doesn't always have to be stressful, especially if you enjoy what you're doing and you see that it's got this greater purpose, we're in a much more comfortable situation. It's like the battlefield is in your bedroom. It's on the street handing out a leaflet or talking to someone. It's on a bridge and putting a banner out there. That's where the modern day battle is. So the podcast is one facet to that. And if you haven't checked it out already, we've got a few episodes up now on the site, again, thegreatclimatecon.com. You can check it out. Something that the most recent show was with a woman called Laura King, who's doing really amazing things in Brighton. and she's fighting back against the zoning measures, and she has an entire political party that's grassroots that is making waves in the area, and they have candidates that are standing for all of the, well, but a lot of the local elections in around the Brighton area, and that's really awesome to see. That it's very inspired to speak to that woman, Laura King, Friends of Brighton and Hove. You can find all of the information on the Great Climate Con website on the podcast section. So now to turn it to you guys specifically, this is what we are looking for. If you have any of these kind of skills, or you know anybody, or there's just anyone who wants to contribute, this is the skill set that we are looking for, and there could well be more. And this is also where it'd be great to involve the community a little bit, because I only have one mind, so there's only so much that I can think of. But when we're together and we bounce ideas, that's where extra stuff can come from. So yeah, we need graphics, obviously, just to do like what you're looking at, but also we could do with a leaflet. I know we've been speaking about it a bit in the admin group, but it hasn't come to fruition yet. And I could create one, but my graphic skills are not as good as someone who's a professional at this. So it'd be nice to get it as good as possible. If nobody does come forward on the graphics, I think we're just gonna have to roll with it, see what we can get out there. But leaflets can be very, very powerful. I mean, even hundreds of years ago, like when people were first starting out in fighting back against the government in activism, especially against vaccines, you had people hand creating these leaflets and memes, and they had success, by the way. That's the success we had, was getting people the right to choose whether or not they want to have a vaccine, because we've already gone through a lot of this stuff back in the mid to late 1800s, where the government was trying to mandate vaccines, or a specific vaccine, and the people fought back. But that took decades. These people were fighting for decades. They didn't have the internet, they didn't have cars, and they still managed to secure a victory after much struggle. But the fascinating and amazing thing is how they still organized each other, because there was hundreds of these groups, and then the National Anti-Vaccination League brought them all together. But I'm amazed at how they must have communicated just by written letter, and it would have been like a day or two before, you send a letter and it'll get there tomorrow or the next day. It's not like now where it's just instant, right? And even this Zoom call, it's like so much information can get passed so quickly. But then our enemies also have greater advantages because they're using the same technology that we have access to. I suppose it's just who can use it the most effectively and can create the greatest change. So yeah, if there's anybody who's like an organizer or like a leader, or somebody who is okay being in that kind of role and is happy to lead, again, that ties into the group admins. You guys are so valuable. If any of you are of that cut of cloth, leaders in this movement, real movers and shakers, like gold dust, in my opinion. So if you feel like that's you, it'd be amazing to have you on board. And then if anybody can contribute financially, of course, when we do get a leaflet and we start buying like the leaflet itself to distribute, that will cost money. The banners, we could design really nice banners, so we can, if there's a bit of a pot that we can use to fund things like that, that would be really awesome. Because I've often joked at how easy this would be if we had like Bill Gates level wealth. If we just had one Bill Gates, one billionaire on our side, it would make the entire thing so much easier. Then we could donate millions of pounds to the BBC and get our message into the BBC, right? But of course, I don't think anybody here is a billionaire. I don't know, I don't recognize any billionaires, but that's okay. We don't actually, I don't think we need Bill Gates level wealth, but we do need some to be effective in what we're doing, right? And we could also perhaps look at doing this communally, and depending on if there is anybody who's good, like as an accountant or something, that wanted to head up like a committee where we could manage the funds, that's all there. So it could all be above board and everybody sees that we've got this much money and we're using it for this, right? It's all just clear as day. So contributors would be, like, for example, you could have people that are good at writing, or even anybody who's happens to be a content creator, again, like gold dust, these people. But if you are somebody who's, even if it is just writing an article, even writing an email, or if you're any form of writing, yeah, we have the website to use. Like I've built these platforms and these social media accounts and the mailing list for this cause. The ClimateCon network is completely dedicated to the Reclaim Our Roads campaign, and I'd like to invite people to use this platform with me. And much of the success that I've had before going into the ClimateCon network the past 6 to 8 months on if I take to Open One, people would send in their protests from all over the world, and it was like we were working together. It was like we had this sort of kind of disorganized, not centralized at all, very decentralized connection and team that would see that I'm protesting about posting videos about protests, and then they would send me the videos of their protests, and then I can post it. We work together. It's amazing. So we can do that again, and it's happening a bit, but I'd like to encourage people to definitely do that. And also, if you'd like to take it a step further and you've got a bit of a mind on you, then that would be great. And again, interviewees, obviously that was covered earlier for the podcast, and that's a really great experience if anybody is looking to get into that kind of realm, in that kind of zone of speaking, because we also do it live, which is quite exciting, and that adds an extra challenge to the whole thing, but it does make it fun, which is, I think it's important to have a bit of levity here and enjoy what was going on, because it is a lot of what we're dealing with is a battle of morale and spirit. So yeah, that's a nice experience. And I've already mentioned the admins and the leaders and courage. We just need people to step up and just be brave and know that, well, I personally don't believe there's anything more important we could be doing with our lives, not just the fighting back specifically against this, but in general leading a life where we're fighting back against the attempts to try and put us into slavery and remove our freedoms. But that takes many different levels. And although we're in a Zoom here, it's specifically talking about the ClimateCon, there'll be some people that won't actually need to fight back in this way. There'll be some people, or they can fight back the most efficiently in a different kind of way of life. And I'd like to just share a perspective that I've gotten over the years, is that if somebody, or part of the one section of the agenda is to try and keep people sick and stupid and low energy. So if you're somebody who actually is like a healer or a yoga teacher or whatever, or you're a butcher and you're selling high quality food or organic vegetables, and that lifts people up, that is a part of the battle. It's all connected, right? That's why they were going after businesses, some small businesses, so hard, because many of the small businesses are actually in a way blocking their agenda to try and control people. That's a whole nother thing in itself. But that's this is courage, like step up. And we have a lot of support here. So finally, if there's one major point that will stick in your brain after this presentation here, is that none of this works without our compliance. None of it. And they know this. That's why they've written this entire document. There's loads of pages in this document talking about behavior change for climate and environmental goals. Again, this is on the ClimateCon website. You can find the PDF. It's one of the first ever articles that was on the website. So none of this works without our compliance, and they know that, and they're trying to roll out every psychological trick in the book to get you to comply. They think of all the effort and the time and the money and the energy that's being put into just trying to get you to comply, just so you make that decision in the moment that I'm going to go along with this because blah, blah, blah. Even though it doesn't feel right, it's not this, it's not that, I'm just going to go along. That's what they want. They want to try and break us down. There's a war of attrition happening over a long period of time where they're just hoping that we will give up. But if we don't, if we stick by our guns, maintain our level of freedom and just say no, then they're pretty screwed. And they know this. It's brilliant. So we have the power, guys. None of this works without our compliance.